A year is a really long time and a lot happens, and within it you're going to have A races, B races and some other thrown in for fun. And you now have this mammoth task of structuring your entire training year. So where does Fartlek training fit in with all of this? Let's find out. So if we take a whole year of training, we have our base phase, our build phase, our peak phase and our recovery phase. And the good news is that Fartlek can be used in all of these phases across the year to help your training and make sure you're in the best possible condition for your A race. So your year is 52 weeks long. This is going to be divided into 4 phases, which are going to be 13 weeks each. Each phase is divided into 2 blocks of 4 weeks and 1 block of 5 weeks. So you know how your phases are placed across the year. What you want to make sure is that your A race is in the last third of the peak phase. So first of all, your base phase. So this is where you're going to be accumulating volume. Fartlek is extremely useful in this. You can use it throughout the phase to add in a little bit of speed work that isn't so serious. It's quite fun. It can be done anywhere. It's really easy to get in. So throughout the base phase, you're going to be using Fartlek training all the time. From there, we're going to move into the build phase. In the build phase, you can use this early on in the first block, maybe a little bit in the second block, and this is going to be sort of your gateway to your real speed work. Here, your intervals and your tempo sessions are going to come in as well. However, the Fartlek session can sort of be interspersed throughout this to sort of give you that little bridge over into the real serious speed work. From your build phase, you're going to jump into your peak phase. Now here, you're going to be really stuck into your speed work, your intervals, your tempo, your hill work. That's all going to be coming at you every week, thick and fast. However, we're still going to have some recovery weeks in there within each block, and this is where Fartlek running can come in really handy in the peak phase, because on these recovery weeks, Fartlek can be used to see how your body's feeling, check up, make sure that these paces feel okay and they're not too fast or too slow. Also, in your peak phase, you're going to hit your A race and you have to taper. We all know you need to taper, and serious interval training is not conducive to a good taper. But Fartlek is, because you can pull the plug early, you can mold it, you can play with it as you do it. As you're running, you can go and you can say, right, this is too fast, this is not feeling good, or I can push the pace a little bit here because I'm feeling quite good today and it's not going to impact me tomorrow. This is where Fartlek is really useful in the peak phase. And then we have the recovery phase. And Fartlek here can just be used as something to help you enjoy running again, just to go out and just put a sprint on every now and then and just really have fun, but then also slow down when you get to the top of a mountain to see what the view is like. So as you can see, Fartlek is useful throughout the entire training year, but in very specific ways depending on what phase you're in. Let's talk about the base phase and how we're going to use Fartlek training within it. Well, you're going to use it throughout. If we take our first block of training, which is going to be a block of 4, we're going to have 3 weeks on, and then we're going to have 1 recovery week. These Fartlek sessions can go in these first 3 weeks because you're going to be accumulating volume because it's the base phase. So you can add in a Fartlek session to add a little bit of speed in, but it's going to be such a minimal amount of speed that it's not really going to affect you too much. You're going to get some gains from it and you're going to get a little bit of mental stimulation from it, and it's going to be really useful to leave you in a really good stead for the build phase that's coming up, and you can do this in every single block in that base phase. Now we're going to move on to the build phase. And here, in the first block, Fartlek training is going to be super useful, and you're going to get a bit more serious about your Fartlek training. You're going to try a bit harder, you're going to go a bit longer, you're going to do more efforts within each session. That's going to be really useful for when in the second block you start to introduce your interval training and your tempo sessions as well. And you can sort of go back and forth between the intervals and the Fartlek training to have a really hard session one week, and then next week you maybe have the slightly easier Fartlek session that allows you more time to recover, allows you to listen to your body, but you're still improving. Then we get into our peak phase. So here, if we think about the first block of the peak phase, you're going to have 3 weeks that are really going for it. They're going to have intervals, tempo, hill work. They're going to be smashing out. They're going to be hard. You're going to put in the real effort. However, when you get to week 4 of that first block, you need a recovery week. You have to take your recovery seriously. And this is where Fartlek can come in, because on that recovery week, it doesn't mean all your speed training is gone. It means that you have a little bit in the form of Fartlek training. So you can go out and you can say, I'm going to do 8 efforts and I'm going to do it every every time I see a lamppost. You can do that, maybe not every lamppost because that's a lot, but you know what I mean, you can pick something to trigger that run that allows you a lot of recovery, and maybe it's not as fast and maybe they're shorter sessions, but it still keeps a bit of speed work in that recovery week, keeps the legs churning and keeps you progressing. Also, in your peak phase, it's going to be really key to get a fartlek session in your taper. We all know about taper. It's really, really difficult to do because it can be a little bit infuriating because you're getting so close to the race and suddenly you're like, I've got to train. And this can be a way of sort of putting off that, oh, I really need to get a speed session in because I'm feeling like I'm not fast enough. Whereas if you go and do an interval session 5 days before your race and absolutely kill it on intervals, you might ruin your race. However, if you did a fartlek session and you did the first 3 efforts and they were a little bit slower than what you meant to do, but they really got the heart pump in and they got the legs working, and then you went, right, I'm going to pull the last 3, I'm not even going to do the full 6 or whatever the session was. You can do that with fartlek. I mean, you can do that with intervals as well, but intervals are so strict, and there's people like me who will go out to do intervals and I've got to do 10 intervals, and no matter what, no matter how much it kills me and how actually it's detrimental to my training, because it says on the training plan I've got to do 10 intervals, I'll do 10 intervals. Whereas if it's a fartlek session, I know it's there for a purpose. I know there's that leniency, and I can go, well, this is more about how I feel in the moment whilst I'm doing it, how recovered I feel, how fast I feel just on the day, because sometimes you just feel faster. And knowing that before I go into a race and knowing that I'm tapering sensibly, so the fartlek is so useful there. And then you have your recovery phase, and for me, recovery phase is all about learning to enjoy running again, because you can have such a serious year, and whether your A race goes well or goes terribly, last year mine went absolutely terribly. I got injured about 60 miles into a 200-mile ultra. I finished the race, I felt awful, it knocked my entire year of training, absolutely ruined all my training, and that's because I was trying to force in too much speed work and I wasn't utilising fartlek like I was 2 years ago, and that was really useful back then. So implementing this fartlek back in the recovery phase just to make you enjoy it again after this real burst of sort of absolutely going for it and striving to do as well as possible on these races. Fartlek can just be that idea of really enjoying running. It is speed play after all, that's what it means, and like just going back to enjoying running and having a bit of fun of sprinting down the hill and getting to the bottom, being knackered and just lying on the floor, because it's just like, do you know what, it's part of the session. Lying on the floor and recovering is part of the session, and that's absolutely fine, and it's just about enjoying it. That explains all of the phases and the blocks. However, we haven't got into the individual week and where we're going to put these fartlek sessions. Now, I think of running in terms of normal running, and then we have our quality sessions. So our quality sessions are intervals, tempos and hills, and your sort of track sessions and things like that. And then your normal running is just your everyday sort of your recovery runs, your long distance runs, things like that. Fartlek comes somewhere in the middle because you can play with that as you're doing it, and it's really useful, and you can get loads of quality out of it, but you can also use it as a recovery session. There's no specific day to do a fartlek run on. However, there's a few sort of principles that you can use. So if you've got a quality session, intervals, tempos, hills, I would not put fartlek the day before that. However, you could put it the day after your long run. Having the fartlek right after it gives you the opportunity to see how you feel. You can say, I've done this massive run on Wednesday, and then Thursday I'm going to go and do a fartlek run. Let's jump into just an example. So this is going to be the build phase. It's going to be block 2, and it's going to be week 1. Right, so if we think about that, we're building now, so we're adding intensity. It's the second block, so we're well into it. So we're going to start off Monday with a really intense interval session. Brilliant. So then the day after that, we're going to go for a nice easy recovery run. Then on Wednesday, we're going to have our longest run of the week. Now, we're thinking about getting in a lot of distance. Maybe we're training for an ultra. So after our long run, we're going to have another long run. So that's going to put a lot into your legs. And then Friday, we're going to check how we feel, and we're going to do a fartlek run. So we're going to go out for a fartlek run, and see how we feel. And then on Saturday, we can just do a nice, easy recovery run ready to hit the next week. So what we've done is we've added some intensity in the start of the week, and we've added a little bit of intensity at the end of the week, but we're doing it in the form of a fartlek run to make sure it's not too intense after those long runs midweek, and just making sure that we can finish off nicely and add a little bit of quality to the rest of our week. Hopefully that will help you implement fartlek training across your year of training. No matter where you're at, what you're training for, you can sort of figure out where fartlek is going to work for you. So if you would like to learn how to do a fartlek training session, then click this video down here. And if you'd also like to know all the benefits of fartlek training, then we run through that on this video down here. I hope this video has helped you, and if you think I've earned it, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.